you think that I actually think anyone will believe me? Nobody's going to believe this. It's too far out there. It's just, people are just not going to believe it. What happened after? Oh, well, needless to say, I'm terrified of going to the mall. I'm afraid to go into any room by myself because I don't know when I open the door if I'm going to be in another dimension. And you laugh. It's not funny, though. It's a legitimate fear. I feel like I have PTSD. I'm absolutely terrified of pools now. I've always had a weird, I don't even know if I'd say weird. I've always had a healthy fear of water, as I think everyone should, because water is so powerful. You know, it can be so docile, and, you know, even a steady stream of water hitting a rock is going to shape that rock. The rock is solid, the water is fluid, and yet it has that power and dominance over the rock and its solid formation enough to change it. You know, and then you throw in currents like on an ocean or a river where there's a current and it's pulling somewhere. I mean, it's terrifying to me. And I've always had a healthy respect for being careful around water. I love water. I love drinking water. I love taking baths because it's safe. But put me in front of, you know, a stream of water, a body of water, and I'll watch the currents and what it's doing, and I always enter with caution. So it was a day just like any other day, and I was actually going to the mall, which I never go to anymore, but just let's take a moment to stop and reflect on going to the mall. If any of you are within my age group, you will understand this, that the mall used to be the place to go and hang out. You know, it was very kind of, you know, neon fluorescent lights, and it was fun, and it was like where you could go after school or on the weekends. You know, your parents would just drop you off with friends. You'd all meet up there, and maybe if you were lucky, your parents gave you a little bit of money, and you would hang out there literally all day, and it was fun. I mean, you would go in and out of at the stores, you would dream about the things you wanted to buy. You know, you would get some food, hang out in the food court, you know, get snacks, walk around, look at everything, look at the other people. It just was something where I feel like maybe kids felt free to just be who they were and hang out with their own, you know, group of kids or whoever they hung out with. So I grew up loving that aspect of, you know, going to the mall. But something's changed with the malls. You know, a lot of them have gone out of business. A lot of them are just decaying and empty in certain places, which is really freaky. And the malls, you know, at least by me where I'm at, the mall is open, and there's certain parts of it that are pretty active. But then there's other parts of the mall where there's, you know, tons of stores that are just closed down. They're empty, and it feels kind of spooky anyway, you know. So I don't like going to the mall. I don't really like going to the mall anyway. I only go, you know, when I have a purpose to do it. And I didn't even want to go this time. So this happened when I didn't even really want to go, but I was going because I was returning something for my husband at a store that I never shop at. So if you ever catch me at a mall going shopping, I'm not shopping in the big department stores because they're just not my style. I tend to shop at some of the weirder, smaller shops, you know, that are a little more creative, more kind of homegrown stores, not big department chains. So I just, you know, my husband needed me to run an errand. Well, he had a shirt that he had to return, and it had been way too long, and his schedule wasn't working where he could get over there, and I have more free time. I work from home, so I thought, okay, you just need to get this done. So I'm going to go over and I'm going to exchange this shirt for you. I know what to get. I'll go in and I'll do it for you. So that was the thing that brought me to the mall and why I was by myself to begin with. Okay, so fast forward, I go to the mall, I get there, I park, I go inside, I park by Macy's so that I can kind of enter through the Macy's store. I go in there, I decide that I'm gonna, do the exchange for my husband. I went into the area that I know where he shops and I found the shirt that he wanted. I exchanged, had the size that he needed, went up to the counter, did the whole switcheroo, got him his shirt. Bingo, yes, we're done, everything's great. So before I left, I was going to use the restroom there, and so I went to the bathroom, went in there and it was like no big deal. I went into the bathroom, I did my business. Honestly, what happened next hit me like a ton of bricks because I, for a moment, felt like I literally lost my mind. I lost all sense of understanding even what reality was. So I went from being completely, cognizant in my own reality that we all walk around and take for granted. I go to the bathroom, I go to open the door, and my life would never be the same. I don't like talking about this. So I ended up, I'm in the bathroom stall. I'm done. I lean down, I look down to go pull up my pants. I pull up my pants. And as I stand up and I pull up my pants, I feel something right away on my ankles. It's like I felt water, like wet, which is so disgusting, right? This is not the feeling that you want when you are in a bathroom and you're pulling up your pants and all of a sudden you feel wet around your ankles. That is not a good sign. It usually means that you've got like pee or whatever on you. So immediately, I'm focused down at the floor, like what the heck is going on? And when I look down, I see that there's like all this kind of like water. And I didn't notice that before. I didn't notice any type of water. When I came in, there was no water on the floor. And just a few seconds ago, I don't recall seeing any water or anything. I pull up my pants and I look down because I'm already looking down. But then as I'm pulling it up, I don't look up right away because I feel this coldness on my pants or on my ankle. And I end up taking another look, like what the heck is going on? So I see like all this water is kind of like sloshing around. I look back at the toilet. I can't see where any water is leaking. I look up like, okay, I just need to get out of here, right? I button my pants really quick. I look up and the door that was in front of me is no longer a door. I look over to the left where, the toilet paper and the dispenser normally are. And when I look over to the left, there's this outline. I don't know how to explain it. It just looked like this weird outline that was not there before. And so I'm shocked. I'm in this other kind of alternate universe because I just walked into the bathroom having a normal experience. The door, it should be right in front of you. It's that way in every bathroom. There's not a whole lot to think about here. The door should be there, and all of a sudden the door is not there, and instantly my mind, where do you go? What do you do when something like that happens? You immediately question your own sanity. Like, what the hell is going on? So I look over because I'm in this tiny little stall, and all of a sudden everything has changed. So I look over to the left and my heart is starting to pound because I don't understand what's happening. And I see this kind of outline, and that wasn't there before. And it was like this metal on metal outline, but it looked like a groove. So I just kind of pushed on it. And when I pushed on it, it opened up. It was an actual door, and I couldn't believe what I was looking at. When I when I looked through the door. The only way that I can explain this is that what I was looking at looked like it was an opening into the bottom of an empty pool. All white, all concrete. If you've ever seen or had a pool or seen a pool that had been emptied of its water, that is in a deep pool. Like something that you would go to a community center, that kind of pool. It was huge and it was empty. I just looked through it. I don't know how long it was that I actually stayed in that bathroom, and I kept facing where the door should have been, and I kept closing my eyes and opening my eyes, closing my eyes and opening my eyes. I felt like I was trapped in my mind, and if I were to just close my eyes and just take a few deep breaths and relax, that maybe I would open my eyes and that door would be back there, and whatever this weird thing that was happening in my mind, whatever that was, maybe it would like reset my brain and I would be back in my regular reality. So I don't even know how long, like I refused to go through that door. It was the only way out of that bathroom stall, and I just kept breathing and trying not to have a panic attack and just trying to figure out what the heck was happening to me, and refused to actually go through that door. Eventually, I did go through the door, because what else am I going to do? There's no way out. I can't stay in this tiny little stall, and the only way out was this completely scary huge cement block that I was going to enter in. And I was scared too that if I walk out this door, which was the only connection to the reality that I was in just a minute ago, if I were to walk out and go in that other direction, I was really scared that I was saying goodbye to any connection that I would have to my own reality. This pool was white. It was a really deep pool. I mean, it was probably like 10 feet deep. And it wasn't like a normal pool where, you know, you would have a shallow end that would lead into it. It was, the entire thing was probably 10 feet deep. So that right off the bat was unusual. So here I am in a bathroom stall that was supposed to be connected to a mall, and I opened this door that wasn't really even a formal door. It was like something I just pushed and the door opened into this cement pool, a 10-foot pool, and I look up and all I can see is kind of like shadows and more dark and more like, it just looked like I was in some immense concrete something, and I was freaked out. I don't even know what else to say. I didn't know, there was nothing else for me to do other than to venture out, and that scared me more than anything, because I don't know what's out there. The only way to get out of this 10-foot pool that had no water in it, by the way, it was just this empty concrete pool. The only way for me to get out of it was to climb these kind of, I don't know if you've ever seen pool stairs, right? They're like they were just these little black iron things that had been drilled into the concrete. And I had to literally climb my way out of that pool. When I got up to that pool, it looked like a huge mall, but it was so eerie because it was filled with shadows. There were parts of the mall, like I would just start walking and there was all these, like a mall, there was all these shops, but they were all empty. And some of them had bars and some of them were all glass, and the aisles in which I would walk through, it felt like they went on forever. Some of them went off to the left, to the right. If I kept going straight, it just seemed to get darker and darker. So I tended to just keep like turning wherever it was light, because I was scared to go into that dark section. I would turn left, and I remember I turned left at one point, and I kept walking, and I could feel that it was going slightly down. I could feel the pressure of my body. It felt like it was slowly doing this. The more that I walked down that way, it was bright for a while, but the tile, because it was like a mall, right? So it was like this tile, everything seemed so homogenized and almost too clean, you know, like scary clean, like serial killer clean, serial killer clean. And I could feel in my body that it was starting to descend slightly, and it was still pretty light in that particular area, but then it started leading off into water. And there were parts of it that were like the bottom of the concrete was painted aqua, and it just was odd, you know. If I had seen something like that out in a normal circumstance, it might almost be pretty, but because I was in something that I couldn't understand, it felt more like it felt more like a sanatorium, you know, like it was designed to kind of make you go crazy because it didn't belong there, and it made no sense. Like, here I'm in part that looks like a mall that's just going on forever, and all the shops are empty, and I can see every room is just another empty room with weird shadows, and some of the rooms are really bright and other ones are shadowy, where I almost feel like I see a shadow figure, but I would look and nothing would be there. I kept turning left and right, and everywhere I went, it would lead into either more hallways or more of the same thing, or I would go off into areas that were like water, you know, and so I don't know how long I was there. I really don't know how long I was there. I feel like I was there, like walking around panicked and terrified, and it felt like forever. It felt like weeks had gone by. And in a normal reality, you would say, well, it can't be weeks because like you didn't eat. I don't remember eating anything. I don't remember drinking anything. All I remember is walking endless hallways, taking stairs that led up to things. I found staircases or weird little dark areas that had all these stairs on either side, just combined and condensed together, just random stairs, and they went all the way up to the ceiling, and I could walk through the center, but it was so dark, and it's like I'm not going in there. I'm not going to go in there because I don't know what's in there. So I kept trying to make my moves so that I could stay in the light, because in the darkness I didn't know, you know, I'm already trapped in this place and I don't feel like I'm ever going to get out. And I was so afraid that if I went into one of those darker areas that the walls would close in on me and I would never get out. I can't explain it. I can't explain how much time passed. I can tell you it felt like weeks. In my own reality, I would tell you that it felt like weeks, but could it really be weeks? Because I didn't eat or drink the entire time. I would have died if that was the case. But we aren't talking about regular reality. I was in something other, and I don't know what that other is. I don't know how I got there. I had no way of maintaining what time it was. My whole focus was trying to keep myself calm and to try and find a way out. And the very thing that I was avoiding became really, really clear that I was going to have to do, and I didn't want to do it. The only places that I hadn't gone in, I felt like I had searched everywhere. I had stayed in the light, I had searched everywhere. And everywhere in the light that I looked, it was like Meow Wolf, like everything, everywhere I went, every hallway, everything, it always looked different, but then it always brought me back into the same place, the same sections of, turn left, turn right, or go straight. It always, and I would be gone for what felt like days off in these other areas, and everything was different, and it was like going through, 20 football fields of mall. I just kept going, but no matter what happened, I would always somehow end back up in the same place. There was like this, like right out of the pool that I came out of, there was this weird area. It just felt so weird and so industrial, but it was like this pretty little fountain, the way that the old school malls used to have this pretty fountain. And it was really big, and there was like palm trees, and there was this water shooting out of it. And right above it, there was this really like huge circular shape, and it almost looked like, have you ever seen the like with the engine of an airplane? It's like this circular thing with spokes. It looked like that, like super industrial, that was just in the ceiling above the fountain. And everywhere that I would go, and I would be away from that for a long time, like going down halls and trying to find, and ending up in pools of water. And there were times where, yes, I did, because they were still in the light, I would be, up to my waist in water, because I was just trying to find anything that I could, that would lead me to some other door that could potentially get me out. And no matter how far I went in those lighted areas, it always somehow led me back to that fountain area with that weird engine spoke looking, ceiling right outside of the pool where I actually had come in. Before you asked me, yes, there was many times that I would go back down into that pool, and I would try and go back in, but the door, that whatever that door was that opened from the bathroom into the pool, that it had closed, and I saw the ridge there, but I was not able to open it anymore. It was like it was locked. And so, I'd sit there. There were times where I sat there for hours trying to open it and couldn't get in. So it was like I was forced to keep venturing out. So the only one area that I did not go into up until this point was that really scary area that I told you about, that had all the stairs on the sides that were all compact. They didn't make any sense of, they were like all on top of each other. It just was weird. I don't even know how to explain it properly, but there was a sliver for like one person to kind of sideways enter through. And I didn't want to go in there. I didn't have anything on me that was a source of light. My the phone that I did have, as you can imagine, every scary story, right? Your phone is not working. The only thing that I could use for a while was like the light if I needed to, but I had stayed in the light, but by that time my phone was already dead. So there was literally nothing that I had that was useful to deal with something like this. And it's the one place that I did not want to go into. I didn't have a light. I was scared to death that, just like that door in the pool, if I went in there, I could be stuck in the darkness like forever and have no way to see anything. And the only thing worse than being stuck in this, pool-like prison, this mall / pool-like prison that's all like, everything is so white that it's hygienic, and there's no personality or life. You're just stuck in this prison. The only thing that's worse is going into the darkness and being stuck in that. And that was the thing. I absolutely just, I tried everything else but that. And it got to the point where I realized that's the only place I haven't looked, and I don't want to go, but I have to. It took everything in me. You know, I sat outside, you know, by the fountain for a long time. I just sat there contemplating having to do this. And I don't know, there's something in you that just surrenders to, like, when you know your life is over. You just have to surrender to it. And I literally felt like, you know, I don't feel like I'm going to come out of there. But I have no other option. You know, if there's even the slightest potential that I go in there and I can somehow find a way out, I have to try it. And there's a good chance I'm not going to come out of there. So I sat outside by the fountain for quite a while and just had to surrender to that. And finally, when I felt like I was numb enough, I was just like, I guess, ready to meet my demise. There was nothing else I could do but try to do that. But I knew that, you know, it was a long shot. I didn't know why I was in this predicament to begin with, or where the heck I was, or what I did to be put in a place like this. I never heard of anything happening to anyone like this, and so I just had to accept it. And by this time it felt like I had been stuck in there for a week. So I'm like, you know, my heart is heavy. I felt dirty and heavy. My clothes felt old. I felt greasy. I felt horrible. And the weird thing is, though, I didn't feel thirsty and I didn't feel hungry or anything like that. I felt heavy, and I felt like I had been on a rugged journey. So I decided, you know, at a certain point when I was ready, I got up and I was like, okay. That's all I said, okay. And to myself, because there's nobody there hearing me, right? So I go up to that spot and I look out one more time at the light, and I turn back around and I look at this, you know, this small sliver of space that's just pure blackness. And I squeeze my body going in sideways. And I felt like I was squeezing through that space for a long time. And the space at certain point was getting snugger and snugger. It was like getting very tight where it was pushed up against me, because at first when I was sideways, I was able to, you know, walk with my feet side by side and walk through there. But then it got to a point where, you know, the stairs and the concrete and the metal bars and the weird industrial stuff that was mixed in with the stairs started to press in on me, but there was still room for me to go. I just kept going. And, you know, even the thought dawned on me that I was scared I was going to get stuck, you know, and then, you know, be stuck wedged in between this stuff, you know. I mean, like, can it get any worse? Before we go any further, you guys, if you are enjoying this story, please make sure right now to hit like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so anytime that I create these stories, you are notified. Make sure you comment down below and let me know what you think about the story. Okay, back to the story. The more that I was in there, the more dark it got, and the more echoey it got, and I could hear drops of water, like something being like dripping literally of in water, and I started to smell that smell that I used to love, that smell that you would smell at, like, say, Pirates of Caribbean. It's like that smell of musty, moldy, like water, damp and dank. I used to love that smell when I would go into Pirates of Caribbean. It was like it made me so happy to smell that. But that's what I was smelling, but it was not associated with anything happy. And I was starting to hear like more echoey sounds. And then I was starting, I'm sitting there getting squeezed and I'm being squeezed and squeezed, but I keep pushing myself, hoping that somewhere up here it's going to open up. But remember, it got so dark, I couldn't see what was coming. I just knew that I was able to keep pushing through that. So I just kept pushing my body as long as it was allowing me to do that. And meanwhile, I feel like I had been doing this for like an hour. So even getting out of that and back the other direction was going to take me a long time. At a certain point, you're like, you're in. You came that far. You have to keep going because you don't know what's on the other side. So I just was, all my senses were becoming so acute. I could hear this echoey, sound of the drop hitting the water, and that told me something immense was on the other side. I was smelling that kind of moldy, musty, like wet smell of water. And then at a certain point, I just kept going through and I heard this click. I don't even know how else to explain it. It was just like this click, and then all of a sudden the pressure came off of my chest. And it was like I was almost thrust out into this darker, it was still jet black, I couldn't see anything. But now I was free, I was walking, or I was able to walk like straight on, and I could hear my footsteps echoing and I could hear the drops, and I just kept walking because I literally imagine this, at least you have the comfort of having something on either side of you. All of a sudden, you're so disoriented because it's like deprivation. And then all of a sudden there's a click and you're freed of the pressure that's been pushing on both sides of you. And then I get out and I'm in this jet black. I can't see anything. I mean, I can't see my hand in front of me. That's how dark it was. I can just hear drops of water. I can hear that echo and I can smell. That's it. And I kept walking, and at a certain point, because once I was released, I knew where I was released from, so I just kept walking. And then I got really disoriented because the more that I walked, the more I realized that there was nothing behind me or on the sides of me or in front of me. So imagine that you're just in the dark and you could literally be, in something that has four walls, but because you can't see anything, you're just walking and you think eventually I'm going to bump into a wall or something like that. I felt like I walked for hours and I never bumped into anything. But, oh my God, obviously I'm here, so something good happened. I walked and I walked and I walked, and eventually I started to see a little bit, like just a pin of light. And I kept walking towards that light. And it never got super bright. It was just light enough for me to see a little bit more. And I felt like that took, a long time to get to. Also, I just kept walking, and it just gave me a little bit of luminance into where I was, but not enough to really see a whole lot until I got closer and closer. Then it started to be like, it was dark, but it's kind of like if you are in a house that has really good blackout curtains, but it's sunny outside, so you're still going to get some level of understanding. There's light trying to get in, but it's not. And it took me through these, as I'm walking, it took me through these twists and turns, and eventually it starts leading into more water. First the water is just at the tips of my toes, then, it's at my ankles, then it's at my shins, then my knees. I get to a point where I'm up to my hips in water, but I'm still going towards the light. And it's taking me through these winding different areas that would open up into big pools, and then it would change into something else, and it would just be a room, and then there'd be less water, and then there'd be more water again. And then finally it got pretty small. It led me into this little small area. And there was only one way to go. So I'm in this area, and again, it's like turquoise painted at the bottom. I'm, leading off into this, was led off into this small little area. And when I look down, it's literally stairs that, it's like turning. I don't know if I can explain this right, but it's like these stairs that obviously went down in a circular pattern. And the stairs and whatever was down there was turquoise. It was painted turquoise, and where everything else was just like concrete white. And this was it. Even now I'm like holding my breath. Because I realized after all of what I just been through, it led me to this one spot, and there literally was nothing else for me to do. I had to go under the water and go down there. And I have, like I said earlier, this healthy fear of water. And there was no current or anything like that, but it was definitely a scary situation. And it looked dark down there. I mean, I just looked down, and it looked kind of dark, and obviously I'm only going to be able to go so far down there without breath. I'm going to have to come back up. So I didn't know what else to do, and I was so scared to go under the water and do that. But I had to. I had come all this way, and it led me to the one and only way that that one and only thing that I could search. So I took a deep breath, and I just dived down. Now, I'm a decent swimmer, and I know how to hold my breath. I grew up with pools, and I used to practice holding my breath, going all the way across to one side, and how far could I get back. So I had some confidence that I could hold my breath, although I was a little rusty, and I had some confidence to know I was only going to go as long as I felt I comfortably could before running out of air and then having to come back up. The distance from, how much you held your breath, and okay, I got about that much air to come back up. But I had to do it. So I dove in there, and it was so scary because it was so dark, and I remember just swimming as fast as I could to get down. How far is there? And I had my eyes open. I didn't know, this water could have been polluted, but I'm going down there, and I see nothing but black, and I keep going, and I'm holding my breath, and I feel like, okay, I'm getting to the point where I'm going to have to go back up because I don't know if I'm going to have enough air to get back to the top. And right when I was getting ready and thinking that thought, I saw a little pinprick of light. And I don't know what came over me because I literally was almost out of breath, but I guess I was willing to die trying. If I would have come back up, I don't know if I would have had the courage to do that again. And I don't even know if I went back down, if it would have been there the second time. Because remember, this is some weird altered reality. It doesn't Things don't work the same the way that they work in a normal reality, that all bets were off. So I just kept going down and down and down, and the light got brighter and brighter till I saw there was this little, I went down and I saw this little thing, and I saw where the light was coming through. I went down and under, and I came up, and it shot me up on the other end. And here I was on the other end of a, like, not even halfway filled pool. It was like a pool that's kind of been emptied. It looked like the same exact pool that I came into the first time, but it was only partially filled. And so, of course, I come up and I gasp for breath, and I'm through this, whatever that was, I'm through the other side, and I just wanted to get out of that pool. So it had the same stairs. I climbed my way out of that pool, and I climbed my way out of that pool, but it looks different. I'm up there now, and the fountain is not there. I just see this really, really long hallway lit with this really, like, dark and kind of menacing green light. And it's a really long hallway with a bunch of doors and really shiny floor, like it had just been polished shiny. All these doors that were closed, and it's like lit by this green dark type of green light, which just is scary. I just walked. I just was happy to be out of the water, and I walked and I walked. It took me, I don't know. If I were to say, it probably took me about 15 minutes of walking before I saw something that gave me a glimmer of hope. I saw an exit sign. And I was afraid to even hope that it was gonna be what it said it was. I was afraid to even let myself hope that, because I had been gone for so long. I don't even know how long. It felt like I was gone for weeks. When I saw that sign, I ran towards that door. I don't know where I got that energy, because I was so defeated and so hopeless that I was willing to die to try and get out. So I ran. And when I came up to that door, I pushed that door, and the door clicked as I thrust myself through that door. Something really weird happened. All I can tell you is that it was like someone kicked me in the stomach. I started coughing. And when I did that motion, and I looked back in front of me, I was staring at the bathroom stall door. I was thrust back into this stall, and I was in the same clothes. I was, my purse was hanging on the door. I was exactly where I had started, and I didn't waste a second. I flipped that switch of the door, grabbed my purse, and I ran out of there. I actually left the bag of the shirt on the floor, because who gives a crap about the bag, about the shirt? I ran all the way to my car. I got in my car. I sped out of that parking lot. All I wanted to do was get home. That's all I wanted, was to get home. But how do you tell somebody what you just went through? That you were gone for weeks. That you had come to peace with yourself, that you were going to die. And to everybody else, you were gone for less than an hour. And my husband wondering, where's his shirt? Needless to say, I never am going to the mall again. I will never use a public bathroom again, ever. And I am going to be in therapy for a really long time. Thanks for watching.